This is too good, or actually good. It's too fun of a film to not cover.
Maybe take another crack at Batman Forever and see ways in which we can get past our trauma and learn to be good men and use the gifts that he has given us to redeem whatever city you're in and whatever power that you have. You know, that'll preach.
In a world where entertainment is viewed as mindless diversion, only good for momentary distraction, you are about to enter a new world, and you will never view entertainment in the same way again. This is Popcorn Theology.
Welcome, movie lovers and theology nerds, to Popcorn Theology, where we examine films for where they align with the greatest story and greatest storyteller of all, discussing what to receive, reject, and redeem for fruitful conversation, mindful movie consumption, and common ground. I'm Batman. Miles.
And I'm just an orphan over here that Mr. Miles has taken me under his wing. But you can call me Eric or Nightwing or Boy Wonder, something like that. I don't know. We'll come up with the names later.
Hoping you didn't take me up on the offer so I could eat whatever Alfred cooked Dick Grayson that first time. You know, perhaps the dogs are hungry. Looked like the best meal in history.
Well, when you lose your parents, it's kind of understandable. But yeah.
Which, in case you didn't know, you have a guess within about 10 movies of what movie we're covering. We're looking at
Batman Forever. And we're looking at directed by Joel Schumacher, starring Val Kilmer, Jim Carrey, Tommy Lee Jones, Nicole Kidman, and Chris O'Donnell. And we're covering this for a couple reasons. One, it is 30th anniversary of it, and it's also in honor of Val Kilmer. He passed away earlier this year, and so we are we had a poll or Patreon pick last month of a Val Kilmer film, and this came in second place. And this is too good, or actually good. It's too fun of a film to not cover. So there's a couple things about it. It was one of the top grossing movies of 1995, which is just crazy. I was a young child. And then it's also huge. There was a tonal shift after the negative reception that Tim Burton's darker Batman Returns got. So what I think we'll probably talk about, was it a welcome change, or was it or were there definitely some missteps? So Miles, or sorry, Batman.
Yes, that's correct.
Could you give us the plot summary for your movie Forever?
Yeah, it's interesting because Me Forever is a good movie. In case you don't know, if you're listening to this, I got my Batman mask on. I don't have too many excuses to put it on. There's not too much crime in my area that needs being put out. But we talked about the tonal shift being a little lighter with this movie. But if you listen to this plot, it really is. It has some depth to it. So in Batman Forever, Batman faces off against two foes simultaneously. The horribly scarred former district attorney Harvey Dent, who hates Batman, is trying to destroy Batman this whole movie, played by Tommy Lee Jones. And then you have the Riddler, played by Jim Carrey, and he is an enemy of Bruce Wayne. He's a disgruntled former employee of Wayne Enterprises, and he's seeking revenge after Bruce Wayne, who used to be his idol, doesn't see eye to eye with him. And he unleashes a brain-sucking weapon upon Gotham City, turning them all into mindless consumers, which is something that we should think of all the time. It's literally sucking their minds out and feeding off their IQ. And that's just the half of it. Additionally, this movie really explores how the Caped Crusader is wrestling with himself internally. He's seeing new memories of when his parents were murdered, and it's complicated by a new romance with a psychologist, Dr. Chase Meridian, who's played by Nicole Kidman. And Chase struggles with the fact that she's in love with both Batman and Bruce Wayne separately, and she's trying to choose between the two. Meanwhile, in the middle of all this, after Bruce fails to save Dick Grayson's parents at a circus when Two-Face attacks, Batman takes in Dick Grayson as his ward, and he eventually becomes Robin. And so there's a lot that happens in this movie.
Yes.
And none of that is particularly campy in the description. but its execution is really campy, and
Yeah,
Batman struggles
I had to
on
say,
all fronts.
I was going to say almost every single thing is just overlaid with camp.
Yeah, it's just all
of
of those things, and you just add some camp. And yeah, Batman is just faced with troubles on all sides. He also is probably struggling with heat exhaustion, which I am too in this mess. So I'm going to take this off, and we'll dive into our popcorn ratings. You know, as a movie, we wrestle with whether a movie is stale, fresh, or buttered and salted. And so, Eric, as I'm pulling myself out of this mask, let's see what you think of this movie as a popcorn flick.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny listening to the description when you talk about. I remember watching this again. I don't know. This is probably the dozenth time I've watched this movie. I've loved this movie so much, especially as a kid. But this was also at the height of the craze of the now debunked field of psychology of suppressed memories. And so it's just kind of funny is that they still had that. And it's funny enough, like in the common vernacular, people actually don't know that it was like almost completely debunked.
Yeah.
Everyone that went to jail back in the 80s and early 90s because of suppressed memories, all were found innocent later on. Like that, because they're like, oh, wow, someone has a memory from 25 years or 30 years ago. Well, it's actually history shows and psychology now shows it's actually not true. But anyway, but back to the actual rating. So I went with fresh, but well, at least I would say it's fun. It was definitely fun.
Yeah,
it's definitely a 90s film, absolutely 90s film, and it has a lot of camp, and it does not apologize for it, and I don't think it needs to apologize for it.
Yeah.
This was the era of films where they didn't know quite if they wanted to be serious or if they wanted to be that kind of that fun balance that it wanted to have, and I think that was part of the tonal misstep of the Batman Returns. Is it was a little too serious when parents are like, we just kind of want to have our kids watch a Batman film, especially, and also this one came out after the animated series, I believe, had already started. So
yeah,
Batman was a lot more of a kid-friendly type of thing. Because I mean, you can say Batman, the first Keanu Reeves one, that's not really a kid-friendly flick either. It was a little lot darker, but the animated series really put Batman in like Saturday morning cartoons. Children, children watching it. But yeah, so Nicole Kidman, one of my childhood crushes, mostly because of this film. And I have always felt, even watching it this time, I was like, I'm not going to dog him. I felt Kilmer did a fine job as Bruce Wayne Batman. He's a fun actor. I don't think he was a lot more reserved in this role than some of the other roles. I think he does excel a lot more in the Mad Mardigan or the Doc Holliday type of role. Yeah. But I think he did a fine job with this, and I don't think this film deserves all the hate that it gets from all the reviewers.
I agree.
I think it was a thing of its time, and I think it's fine. And at the end of the day, I'll just die on this hill. It was fun, and that's what a movie should be.
It was fun. It was action packed. I mean, Batman gets shot, he gets burned, he gets buried, he gets nearly drowned, and it's just so action packed. So I label this movie solidly fresh. At the nostalgia factor, I tried to weigh against, because this was my first Batman movie. This came out when I was 6 years old. And the toys were amazing. Mm-hmm. The toys were great. Sadly, that's the reason I think the Batman Robin was so bad, is that the greedy toy makers and the studios got too involved in that way. But I think this movie is an underrated Batman movie. Think about comic book movies today. There's something that we come to expect, but this was relatively early. And if you ask somebody just out of the blue, how should I translate a comic book into a movie? This did a really fine job. I mean, the city looks awesome, and it feels like a comic book movie. And this movie is also, I think it's psychologically interesting, and it adds to the Batman mythos. It has a genuine conversation with themes that are found all across different iterations of Batman. And so I just think it's sadly underrated. underrated. It's a fresh movie. It clearly has its flaws, but it's a fun flick. It's a movie, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It's 30 years old.
Well, even some of the special effects, like when he jumps off the one building after the party gets disrupted, and it's the digital and everything like that. I was like, honestly, for a 30-year-old movie, that holds up.
Yeah.
As
this
much
was the same year as Toy Story,
yeah.
right? A few years after Jurassic Park. But that's a digital recreation, and it's not totally obvious. Yeah. There's even some things that are digitally composited that you don't even realize. The Bat Sub apparently was mostly digital. Looked very practical to me. Yeah. But yeah, so it's, as a popcorn flick, pretty fresh. But we know this is Popcorn Theology. As a theology movie, if it's a soda, if we're drinking it in, do we consider it diluted, carbonated, or just cup runneth over with theological ideas and insights and jumping off points? What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, so I'm going like lightly carbonated. It's like a Fresca, or like if you're a hard beverage person, a Truly, something like that, where you've got you got the little tingly feelies and stuff like that.
Sure.
Definitely, it's themes around the response to traumas, the complexity of having a double life. But I don't think they actually land the plane, or I think they ask the questions, but they actually don't provide the answers to those questions in any satisfying way.
Yeah.
So like, I praise them for raising the question, but I know we'll actually talk about this in one of our main points. As a matter of fact, spoiler alert for everyone. Two of our main points literally overlap. So we're like, well, let's just combine them, and we'll just have a conversation instead of, hey, I go, then you go. And so, so we're in a ton of points, and I don't think they landed the plane with too many of them. But how about yourself, Miles?
Yeah, so it's carbonated enough. I've had this movie downloaded in my head for 25 years or so, and so there's plenty of stuff to talk about. And Batman is an archetypal figure, which means there's always stuff to talk about. Mm-hmm. And his villains are very relatable in the way that their sins are very human sins, even though they are outlandish. And then you introduce Robin in this movie. Robin is one of my favorite illustrations of discipleship.
Yeah.
Jedi Padawans and Robin is a good way that I like to describe my relationship to Christ. And so, but like you, it brings up good themes, but it doesn't really land the plane. Even when it comes to conclusions, you don't actually say, well, how did did he have this psychological breakthrough? I don't know, but it's interesting, and it'll be a good conversation. But before we dive into that theological conversation, I want to encourage you to like, share, subscribe on YouTube in particular, follow us on social media, and interact with us, keep the conversation going. It's really fun when you guys come up with a thought, especially something we haven't thought of. And and you might be able to work your way on the podcast, like both Eric and I did.
Yes, yeah, but yeah, it's like we got on, a couple other people have got on just because of that, and also you do influence the podcast. In they'll be covering the K-pop demon hunters or something like that.
Something on Netflix, I think. Yeah,
something on Netflix that I'm just not ever going to see myself. But apparently everyone says it's great. I'm also not going to see it because I actually don't have Netflix. But anyways, but your voice is heard because I monitor a lot of the socials, and we see the comments. So I let the other host know, it's like, hey, who has the bandwidth to do this? So keep the conversation going. We love listening to you guys and hearing your thoughts and the direction you want the podcast to go. And one quick way, obviously, you can support us is rate and review, especially Apple Podcasts, Spotify's, wherever you listen. Yeah. If you review it 5-star, shoot us an email. And we'll get you some free stickers and stuff to help promote. So also support us financially on Patreon. Just donating a few dollars a month will make you a patron saint. Gives you special access to we have a hidden Facebook group. We have a special channel in the Discord, in the public Discord server. You get to vote on future episodes. And for our premium seating members, you actually get special extended episodes of In the Lobby podcast, where we're interviewing some really cool people. We've got some interesting stuff lined up. We just released our episode with Colin Garbarini.
Sorry, Colin.
Sorry.
Colin Garbarino from the
Yeah.
World Magazine. He does their movies.
from World Magazine, who he wrote a fantastic article about kids movies, but it also quoted Popcorn Theology, and so we got them all on.
This is kind of random publicity.
Great,
takes you places.
Have a great thing. So, Miles, do you currently have any merchandising and stuff?
I don't have any new merch, but like Edward Nygma, behold my vision. Our podcast in every ear of America.
Yeah,
and our T-shirts. And everybody in America, and one day the world, so we can simply outdo Bruce Wayne in every way. Yep. Okay, I got these lines floating in my head. We'll drop our ads, and then next we'll soar into Batman Forever.
Up in the sky, look! It's a bird! It's a plane!
Cinemagog, The Marvelous Era. James Harleman here, the cinema guy, announcing the sequel to my first book on film and faith. Let's face it, entertainment has changed dramatically since the first book published in 2012, and comic book characters and franchises are everywhere. So I decided to set my sights on superheroes and examine the evolution of Hollywood in this follow-up to the first Cinemagog book. For example, what does Loki tell us about culture's view of God? Why does the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Infinity Saga continually align with biblical themes? In the Marvelous Era, I review each film and show not only how the individual movies express gospel parallels, but each phase essentially reveals a multi-point sermon. I also explore DC, Star Wars, the Monsterverse, and more. Without compromising scriptural truth, we can sift these stories and discover how we might reject, receive, and redeem ideas for personal reflection and Christian conversation. Also, has Hollywood's messaging gotten worse? The book explores ways these marvelous mythologies correspond with conversion, Christian living, church history, and Reformation, but I do also highlight what has been the entertainment industry's darker, indoctrinating decade, as well as toxic fandom and the dangers of immersion in pop culture that just might drown us spiritually if we're not careful. So suit up, assemble, and join me on a journey to the Infinity Saga and beyond. Cinemagog, The Marvel Us Era. Now available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle editions.
Hey, this is David, and if you're listening to Popcorn Theology, it's probably because you're interested in theology or movies, or best of all, both. And that means that you're our kind of people, sharing common interests with our listeners and viewers as well. So why not partner with us and advertise your business or ministry right here on Popcorn Theology? We're looking for great, like-minded sponsors and offer reasonable rates with a variety of formats to get your message out. Remember, our fans aren't mindless consumers, so they'll give you thoughtful consideration. That's a big part of what we're all about here. So, for more information on advertising with us, contact feedback@popcorntheology.com.
And we're back, soaring into Batman Forever, dropping that spoiler warning. But again, 30-year movie. We've already been spoiling it just with the lines that we've been quoting. But let's dive into our deeper popcorn section. Pop that popcorn. Revisit a 30-year-old bag of popcorn.
Yeah. Hey, there's still some fresh bits in there for sure.
Yeah.
Again, I thought it was fresh. So standout moments, honestly, are anytime Batman is on screen and he's beating up the bad guys. It's just fun. It's just fun. I would say probably the coolest shot, I already mentioned it, was where he jumps off the building and glides down and ends up falling into a trap. But it was that scene which is like, that's cool.
Well, and what he does right after that is, I'm already skipping ahead, when he runs out of the fire and is just staring at Two-Face with that music, ba ba ba.
And it's like, why won't you die?
Yes, it's great. It's great, man. That little bit. And there's so many things that I think I should roll my eyes at this, but I like it.
And from the young boy standpoint that had a huge crush on Nicole Kidman because of this movie, the standout moment to that young boy was definitely when Batman goes and visits her, at night, which we'll be talking about that scene probably towards the end of the episode.
Yeah, it's nice. Bat fornicator. There we go. And it also created one of the best memes of the bat smile. One of the few times it totally worked when she says, I'm effectively, I really am in love with somebody else, meaning Bruce Wayne. He gives that smile. Yeah, it's great.
So that was the standout moment for young boy, and just watching that scene again, go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, this film is full of a bunch of one-liner quips and dad jokes, and they also had no shame in doing promotional tie-ins. Like they filmed for particular scenes for the idea of like, oh no, Burger King or McDonald's, someone's going to pay for this advertising.
I'll get drive-through.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, won't you take a sandwich with you at least, sir? No, I'll get drive-through. It's like classic, perfect. I remember Miles, do you remember the commercials? Literally, like
and the promotional glass cups with etched in characters from the film. Yes,
we had one. We had one of those. I think it broke, but yeah, we had one. It was the 90s. For those, I feel sorry for people who didn't grow up in the 90s, because the 90s truly were the greatest place of ever.
The unashamed tie-ins. It was great.
Unashamed. No one cared. You could get gold-plated Pokemon cards from Burger King. 24 karat gold, $10 or $5. I forget how much it was. It was amazing times. But we're not talking about Pokemon. We're talking about Batman. But again, you could get so much cool stuff from it. So this is one. And so I've watched this film probably the dozenth time. And I was still just smiling throughout. It was just fun. Like there were no surprises this time. It was just, this is just fun. And I think that's one of the things that current Hollywood is actually just missing. And I'm sure some writers and stuff like that will disagree, but the first job of a movie is to entertain your audience, and then to make a good story, and then to make the message of that story land.
If it's not going to be really good, might as well be fun.
Exactly. Make it fun. Why do spoofs? Like we covered The Naked Gun. Yeah. Is that an incredible story? No, it's kind of a point A to point B. It's a police procedural, but they made it fun and you laughed. It's not if it wasn't a comedy, if it wasn't a spoof, it wouldn't be a good movie. But because it was a spoof and it was fun, it was a fantastic movie, which is why they rebooted it, which we'll probably have to cover that in a couple,
you and I will probably have to tackle that
months.
One. Yeah.
But and I get this idea from, there was a great show on Netflix called The Final Table. And it was a cooking show where top chefs in the world, they all competed with each other. And the last episode, 2 of the judges, they're Michelin-starred chefs, own incredible restaurants, highly respected in their field. And they're discussing one of the contestants. They're down to 2 contestants and they're trying to find out which of these world-class chefs is the best in the world. And one goes, well, his dish wasn't daring. He got it plated, he got everything, but it wasn't daring. And the other chef goes, yes, but isn't the point of food to taste good? And this is what Hollywood is missing. They're missing that. Does this taste good? Is this fun? Will a 6-year-old sit down and this become a movie that they think about for the next 30 years? That's what we've missed. That's what, one of the things we missed. The same thing when we covered, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yep. Why did that movie have such a big impact on young boys? Because it was fun. And then when you go back and watch it as an adult, you go, oh, wow, it had all these deeper underlying.
And I need to be a better father.
Exactly. Exactly. It teaches you the difference between a good father and a bad father. But yeah, so it's like, let's get Hollywood. Let's get back to fun. Let's just get back to fun as the core principle of what it is you should be doing.
Although, they can take fun a little too far.
Yes. Yes. Well, honestly, this movie is a good example of it because the biggest complaints are Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah. Neither of them worked in this movie. Their respective roles are appropriately lambasted, and I don't think either of them did service to their careers or to the characters that they were supposed to be.
And you get glimmers
so that is a good example of like, you do have to produce good stuff at the same time. It's not all just camp and fun, but core principle should be fun. Now make sure that it's actually appropriate fun, and you're not just going whole hog with a Jim Carrey and a Tommy Lee Jones, who neither of those characters are the Riddler or the Two-Face from anything.
No, they're the Joker most of the time when they're on. They have glimmers that are wonderful. little bits that were probably just written well. Some of them pretty like Jim Carrey before he becomes the Riddler is kind of interesting when he goes, "You were supposed to understand. I'll make you understand."
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That when you watch him go from being a little crazy to being all the way crazy, and those are the things that make me give this a fresh rating. Sure, cheesy dialogue, sometimes clunky plot, but gloriously 90s movie. I mean, this was the movie of 1995 in the same year that Jim Carrey had his second Ace Ventura movie, and Toy Story came out. This was still the highest grossing, the most popular movie of that year. And just look at it. I mean, some of the scenes are amazing. They did miniatures for these 200-story buildings.
Wow.
Right? Just these dramatic city, like everything's in neon. I love the scene where Batman drives down a road away from the camera. It pans up, and then he's driving from right to left across the screen at an impossibly high bridge that makes no sense for being there. But that's like a comic book. And it makes me think, what is a comic book movie? What is it made for? What should it look like? Who should it be made for? This movie took a bold stab at what that should look like before we as a culture really kind of decided what we want in a lot of our comic book movies. This was a solid attempt. And like you pointed out, there's great moments. Him running through the fireball, I love that. Why can't you just die? It's beautiful. Him breaking down through the chandelier and flipping. Even where he flies down to the Batmobile and goes, "Women," and flips the switch, giant fireball rockets off. It's great. It's great. That whole first scene against Two-Face, I used to chop that into pieces and tell my son that as bedtime stories. I even still, like, if I have to borrow something from somebody, I still say it like, "I'm going to have to borrow this." They don't know, but in my head, I'm playing Batman taking out that earpiece.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't work. It's like this really deeply like Jewish stereotype of the security guard, but it works for me. Hang on. It's just great. His Batman voice, I think, is nearly perfect, as much as I like Christian Bale. And then also this movie, another great 90s thing. It produced the greatest tie-in song to a movie that has nothing to do with the movie, really. It's not even in the movie. Baby, I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the gray. And it's like that. It kind of relates to Chase Meridian, kind of, to Love, vaguely. And you got Seal just dancing in front of the bat signal. But like you, I think there were characters that you got just truly shafted by this movie. Commissioner Gordon is a bumbling fool. Two-Face, he has one great Two-Face speech in the beginning that's really quite wonderful. And then the rest of the movie, he might as well be a goon just desperately trying to kill Batman.
Yep.
And then he is also kind of jokerized by Two-Face. And then also Chase is a bit silly. She's in one scene, she'll be incredibly insightful. She's kind of a good picture of the way we might be very clear-minded, sober-minded at one point, but the heart wants what the heart wants, and we're still kind of silly children. There's stuff in there, but it's a bit silly how quickly she falls in love. Like, still fun. And then I think Tommy Lee Jones, there was just a huge missed opportunity. Can you imagine just like Christopher Nolan directing Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face? Yeah. Because if you look at the way Tommy Lee Jones is in interviews about this movie, he's like deeply psychologically interesting. Imagine if you had watched Tommy Lee Jones be a district attorney and fall into Two-Face. But it is what it is. I also love the fact that behind the scenes, that Tommy Lee Jones really hated Jim Carrey. Yeah. And the directors, I almost feel Tommy Lee Jones's pain. I think the directors were pushing him to be more like Jim Carrey. But like Jim Carrey will tell a story about Carrey coming over to Tommy Lee Jones in a bar and Jones just going like, "I loathe you." And he says, I cannot sanction your buffoonery, he says to him.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
I feel pretty bad for Tommy Lee Jones in this because he's stuck with this, and it probably wasn't his vision when he read the script.
Yeah.
But in all of this, as a movie, because I love Batman, I actually think this movie is a nice progression from Tim Burton's Batman. Burton had this darker feel. But Batman killed a lot of people with like Gatling guns and bombs in the first two movies. As much as I love those movies, this movie shows you how that Batman might actually step away from a more violent past. This Batman doesn't shoot or blow up any of the bad guys. He also tries to, it's an attempt at a good Robin story in a way that's digestible. How do you tell that story? It works in a comic book, but doesn't work in a movie.
Honestly, I think it was just, I didn't mention that, but honestly, I think it's the strongest part of the entire movie is the Robin arc and story that they tell. It's the only part of the story is not full of camp, honestly.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
And so you have this Batman is supposed to be the Michael Keaton Batman from Batman Returns. And you see him move past more vengeful Batman persona toward one who is now mentoring and trying to get past his own demons, which is what we'll get about theologically. But it's an interesting take on the whole Batman franchise. It also has probably my favorite Batman suit up until Batman vs Superman, the Affleck suit. The first suit that he uses throughout most of the movie. I know people hate the bat nipples, but I think it looks fine. Take a comic book picture and then say in the 90s, how are you going to make this in a movie? And they did it's a great job. I especially like it when he's pulled out of the dust and it's not shiny.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it looks great. And then it also moves into probably my least favorite Batman suit of all the movies at the end. And this is where I think the Batman series went wrong, where you got Batman and Robin. They took the wrong lesson from this movie, I think, because in the final act of this movie, they get weird, shiny suits, and they have a bunch of different vehicles. And the people who made this movie made so much money on the different suits and the toys and the outlandish stuff that there was apparently a phrase invented. So I listened to Joel Schumacher talk about the failure of Batman and Robin, and he said, one reason why that movie was the way it was is it was quickly rushed to production. So, for example, the Batmobile in that movie looks kind of crazy. Well, he's said, we were producing the Batmobile, and the toy makers came in and took a drawing and said, we're going to make a toy out of this, so you can't change it.
Wow.
And he said, there's this phrase, the first time he heard it, this movie needs to be more toyetic. And so why did that movie really fail? It wasn't just that it was aimed for kids, because Adam West, that was aimed for kids. It was that it was clearly designed more to sell toys than it was to tell a good and fun story.
Yeah.
And so I think the last act of this movie was really the beginning of the end of that franchise. And in the end, this movie tells an interesting story about Batman. He's pressed on all sides. Bruce Wayne has an enemy. Batman has an enemy. He has enemies outside of himself. He's dealing with enemies inside himself. He has inner doubt. He has a struggle with loneliness. He has a struggle in his romantic relationships. And then now by the end of this movie, he has a quasi-fatherly relationship. I mean, he is really fighting through struggles on every front. That makes for an interesting story.
Yeah.
It's not just like, I got a new gadget to win the day. He had to be morally strong through all of these things. That's interesting to me. That's why I defend this movie. It's because in the grand conversation of what is Batman, it tells a real interesting story, which is what we'll get to. But one more thing, there are some guys out there online that said, as much as we've made fun of the problems with this movie, is there hope out there that there's really a director's cut? Yes, there is. I follow a page on Instagram called #release the Schumacher cut.
Yeah.
And there exists out there a slightly different version of this movie that has more interesting things in it. Like when Bruce Wayne gets shot in his mansion, apparently there's a whole subplot where he loses his memory of who he is.
What?
And yep.
That's like at the end of the movie. What kind of
the Schumacher cut is long. And he has to go Alfred has to help him remember who he is. And he has
to Act 2 in the Schumacher cut. That'd be incredible.
It's crazy. And it begins with Two-Face breaking out of prison, and there's extended scenes. And what I've heard is people report after they have seen the movie. I've seen that much of it.
So, what does he just do private showings? This is what it was supposed to be.
I think
read-alouds?
Kevin Smith found a copy, and then he showed it to some people online. And so I watched a video of somebody saying, I was at this screening and here's some interesting stuff that I saw. And there's some cool things. It's a little bit longer. There's this famous clip, if people don't know what happened, where you have Val Kilmer with his arms spread wide and there's this giant bat face to face with him. And it's in this semi-dream sequence where he's kind of coming to grips with the moment that he became Batman, why he became Batman. Is he struggling with the guilt over feeling like he's responsible for his parents' death? And then he comes out and he says, I'm Batman, Alfred. And then he goes to save the day. And so I think probably the Schumacher cut is not going to fix all of your dreams, but it's fun to hope that there's a better version of this movie out there. But still, all of the wacky Two-Face and Riddler stuff is in there, and that's really what brings this movie down as a popcorn flick. But I really do love this movie. That's why I got plenty to talk about it. But we aren't just a film review podcast, right? We're a popcorn theology, and so let's crack open the soda and dive into our theology thoughts.
Oh yeah. So, well, as I said at the top, this is lightly carbonated, and after seeing Miles's notes, we both basically picked up on the same two main themes. So I'm just going to kind of let Miles roll with this and provide my thoughts on the topics as we go along, because like I said, both of us came up with basically like both of us had slightly different angles, but on the same topics. And so, Miles, why don't you get rolling, man?
Yeah, well, as my as a grand philosopher once said, there is so much a man can tell you, so much he can say about this movie. But what I think is interesting most about this movie in the scope of Batman history is that it tells an interesting story about Batman, and it pushes against an idea that often people critique Batman with. So I think this movie argues that heroes are not controlled by the trauma they experience, nor by their failures, but they're guided by their choices and their conscience. Yeah. And so there's this common take on Batman that I am so tired of. I can't stand. It's the idea that Batman is really just this ill-conceived trauma response of some rich guy that wants to beat up on, marginalized communities. So you see this like in The Flash, a movie which I will defend. I think that's a pretty good movie. But there's a scene where Batfleck is saved by Wonder Woman and is saved by the lasso of truth. And he has this confession moment. This is the truth about Batman. And he's saying, well, Wonder Woman says, you're welcome for saving you. And he goes, well, my ego is far too big to say thank you to someone else. I developed this all-powerful persona to compensate for my childhood trauma. I would do better just giving all my money away. If I really wanted to end crime, I would end poverty. And so there's this specific idea of what Batman is, that he is mostly just directed as a response to his trauma. It's like an itch to scratch. That's why he's Batman. And he's just satisfying, from a position of privilege, where Bruce Wayne really should, instead of fighting crime as Batman, he should just fund programs instead of fighting crime. And I think Batman Forever actually addresses these two criticisms here. So the second claim is that, Batman would really be just better if he gave away his money, because poverty is the real cause of crime, But the truth is, if you read any of the comics, he does give away a ton of his money. He spends a ton of his effort on philanthropy. So, like, just take this movie, for example. It's not even a big part of the plot, but Edward Nygma at the beginning of the movie is working in this branch of Wayne Enterprises, and it just says it's profit sharing. So he doesn't gobble up all their profits. It's what they produce. They get to keep the profits, even though he takes all the risk as the company owner.
The investor, yeah.
Right? And then Bruce also, he sponsored that circus that Robin eventually died at, right? But he gave Robin's family jobs, and it was charity circus. And then he also adopts Grayson, right? Which would be terribly inconvenient for Batman. And then he gave full benefits to Stickley after the supposed suicide, which he didn't have to. He's incredibly generous, and that's just a side plot. It's very aggravating because Batman does do philanthropy all the time. And my second critique of that claim, Batman should really just be giving away his money, because if I really wanted to solve crime, I'd solve poverty. But poverty is not the main cause of crime.
Yeah.
It's correlated very highly. But the real issue that cause evil, it's like, it's just a silly take, because look at Two-Face and the Riddler. Both of them are propelled by very human sins: envy, revenge, right? Some jealousy, ego, spite, nihilism.
Yeah.
Those are all things that don't have anything to do with money. Also, Nigma had plenty of money before he went crazy. So did Harvey.
Funny enough, it was like with Bruce Wayne. Everyone talks about Bruce Wayne. There's a certain political leanings out there that believe if you are a billionaire, you are already immoral and basically probably not a human. And so it's like, well, if everyone was equal in income wise, then would that just eliminate all crime? Well, no, obviously it wouldn't, because we know that some of the great, Bernie Madoff, the largest Ponzi scheme of all time, billions of dollars, white collar crime. I was like, was that motivated by money? Honestly, no, because once you reach that level, going from 1 billion to 2 billion is not that exhilarating.
Yeah.
They're motivated by what you said.
And
Ego,
greed is found in
nihilism.
every socioeconomic status deals with these evil. It's like I was talking to my friend of mine who's a sheriff around here, and he says, look, 9 times out of 10, I go on a call and it's drugs or domestic disputes. Like, that's what people are dealing with. It's not stealing to feed your family. It's not. And so that's just one of those things that bothers me, because I think people miss what Batman is about. Batman is about the idea that people do not fear the right things. They don't fear injustice. Biblically speaking, this is included in the concept of the fear of the Lord. Right. So Psalm 14 bemoans the evils around the world. It says, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They do abominable deeds. There is no one who does good. Now, a lot of Christians will use that verse to be like, the fool in their heart says there's not enough evidence for God. Atheists are terrible. But what this is really about is about a place like Gotham City, where people are not acknowledging that God is out there. He's good and he hates your injustice. They just say there's no God. Or, for example, in the book of Judges, it says everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Right. So Batman is about the way in which we look around and we see that people don't have a fear of God. They do what's right in their own eyes, and somebody needs to do something about it. Yep. That's what's going on in Batman.
That's what I said about when we covered Tombstone. Is one of my points was good men must do good. Like if you have the ability to right a wrong, do it, right it. And that's what Bruce is saying, is like, I'm giving millions upon millions to charity. I'm giving, all this stuff to charity. I'm developing things where it's like, I'm incentivizing, industry. I'm incentivizing all this new stuff to come about, incredible technologies. But it's not enough, because that's not the root problem with this. So I need to, and the world of Batman, you can do this because of the way that's all worked. He's literally is being sanctioned by the city to do this. So he's actually not operating. He's not a vigilante. He's not actually not operating outside the law. when they put up a giant spotlight and say, hey, come and help us out.
Commissioner Gordon is waiting on top of police headquarters while Nigma is over on an island and waiting for Batman to fly in, and then he shakes hands like he did his job.
Exactly.
Go, Batman, go.
Exactly. But it's that thing. It was like, you have a good man with the ability to do good needs to do good. And if that means putting on, a rubber suit and beating up some bad guys, then that's what it means in the world of Batman.
And he's fighting the war on all fronts. But really, it boils down again to Stan Lee nailed it with Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. And Bruce Wayne has economic, intellectual, and physical power, and he throws every aspect at injustice, in spite of the fact that he has enemies in every area of his life in this movie. And he just keeps trucking. But it's just one of those things where that hot take on the internet, he should just be giving his money away. He does, and that wouldn't solve the problem. You are probably just too simplistically minded in your politics, thinking that really, if the billionaires it's all their fault. Well, no, evil is in the heart of every person. And the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom in our world. Well, the way I like to say, in Gotham, the fear of Batman is the beginning of wisdom. He diagnoses the problem. Fear is in the wrong place, and I'm going to put it in the right place.
Yeah.
But he knows that he's not doing it perfectly. Now, the other claim in that lasso of truth scene is, I developed this all powerful persona to deal with my childhood trauma. And the idea is that Bruce Wayne needs Batman psychologically. That it's like an itch to be scratched. It's a trauma response. And that's why he's not doing good social programs all the time. It's like an itch, and he really has to fight people because he's so broken inside. And there's half truth. Batman is a response to that. But in this movie, he progresses past the idea of living in a state of revenge.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a theme that many comics have explored. And Batman Forever has this. So the climactic line that he gives is this: "Poor Edward. You see, I am both Batman and Bruce Wayne. I had to save them both. Not because I have to be. Now because I choose to be." And so it's subtle, but there's a lot of people who say, that Bruce Wayne needs Batman. It's his psychological trauma. Not in this. In this movie, he comes past that. He takes less vengeance, but he chooses to be Batman because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That's heroic, and that's cool to me. So that's why that line actually is awesome. Although here's one thing about this movie. I don't think he earns that line.
I agree. That was one of my critiques. So I had that line exactly in my notes too. And I was like, but I didn't see that in this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. One, I didn't even see too terribly much of the actual struggle of him wanting to give up Batman. The only struggle was he wanted to be with the girl, but he didn't know how. Like, did he want to be with the girl?
I think his struggle was he would do whatever.
This
in this movie, he's lonely, and he would be Batman if Chase wanted Batman, and he'd be Bruce Wayne if she wanted Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna quit being Batman because she wants Bruce Wayne, and he thinks that's what's gonna make him happy.
Yeah.
So there's that little struggle there. That's the way I interpret it. I don't think they earn it. It's
no.
But it's really cool where he gets to, and it challenges a lot of the cultural interpretations. I also think it connects to the way Christians are supposed to react to the world. It's like, we've all got trauma. We've all got failures in our past. I mean, that's why these characters connect. But the Bible says this: when you come to Christ, well, like in 2 Corinthians 5, it says, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. And so let's say you were in law enforcement doing some good deeds before you came to Christ. You say, well, not because I have to be, now because I choose to be. And I don't do it out of revenge. I do it out of love for my neighbor because I want to make sure that the next child has a chance at not seeing his parents murdered. It's love, not revenge. And so Christians shouldn't be motivated by guilt or revenge. We've been forgiven.
Yeah.
They should be motivated by love for God and love for others. And I think Batman gets closer to that. It's a morally better lesson, and it's an interesting progression from the Burton Batman into the Schumacher Batman before it goes way downhill.
It's an interesting thing. Is like when you become a Christian, rarely does your occupation actually change, right?
Yeah.
As some people like yourself, you go down the pastor route. Other people like me, I've stayed in the banking route. And it's like we rarely do you actually have to change your occupation. What changes is your reason for doing your occupation. That's the thing that changes. So maybe Batman at one point was this mask that he put on to, fight his own inner trauma or to make sense of the world or to seek vengeance, or maybe that's how it started. But as he grew and matured and changed, it now just became, no, this is what I do because I'm the person who's most capable of doing this role.
Amen. I think that nails what they were trying to get.
Yeah.
Not because I have to be, now because I choose to be. And I think as a Christian, we have a better way of explaining how that happens, because this movie doesn't earn it, But I think that theory is bolstered by his relationship with Robin.
Yeah.
So in this movie, there's just everybody is affected by revenge. So Two-Face wants revenge. He blames Batman. Riddler wants revenge. He blames Bruce Wayne. And Robin wants revenge. He blames Batman for not saving his family. And Batman says, look, I've lived in the revenge world for years. And so he has this, Robin wants revenge, and one of the best lines in the movie is
It
Batman
was a
says,
great line. Yeah.
then it will happen like this. You make the kill. But your pain doesn't die with Harvey, it grows. So you run out into the night to find another face, and another, until one terrible morning you wake up and realize that revenge has become your whole life, and you don't know why. It's like, Batman is saying, like, we're the same, but I don't want you to follow down this path. Boy, that'll preach. You know, how many older people do you know say that? And so we see Batman is moving, he's maturing, and he's progressing spiritually, psychologically, and he understands that he must let go of his guilt over his parents and over his vengeful heart. And this will allow him to be a whole person and will allow him to love and be loved by Chase. And so in this campy, crazy movie, I don't know how many people pick that up, but it's just this really neat spiritual progression. And to give up the fight for revenge. And so, like, look, this is deep within Christian theology. So, for example, Book of Romans, 11 chapters of theology, and then chapter 12 is the dividing point. Therefore, in view of God's mercies, present your bodies as a living sacrifice. Right. And then Romans 12:2, our favorite verse, do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may be able to discern God's good, perfect, holy will. Right. Few verses down from that, he starts talking about loving your neighbor and not taking revenge. Right. Romans 12:19 through 21 says, beloved, never avenge yourselves. Oh, does that mean you can't be Batman anymore? Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by so doing, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Mm-hmm. And I think that actually gets behind. Batman looks down at the Riddler who tried to destroy his life and says, poor Edward. He actually loves his enemy. Or, for example, you were talking about Batman the Animated Series. Yeah. One thing I love about that show, why I'll even watch it with my little son, is because Batman will spend 90% of the episode fighting the bad guy, just enthusiastically fighting him, taking him down. And then usually at the end of the episode, he saves the bad guy from his own hand or does something good for him. He loves his enemy. He fights the bad guys for their own good most of the time in that show. And so it's one of those things is, how do you integrate fighting crime while also taking out the motive of revenge and shame and guilt out of your heart as a Christian? And I think Batman in some of these iterations actually shows that pretty well. I think it fits pretty well with my worldview. And so Batman's journey is really interesting in this movie. And you might miss it with Joker walking around cackling and throwing those little bat bombs.
Yeah. And so the one part on this vengeance part was especially talking about Robin coming under the wings of,
nice.
Of Batman is the sign when after Robin takes the other car out
it's so
is he comes back and Bruce says something like to Alfred, it said, you're encouraging him. Alfred says, young men with a mind for vengeance don't need encouragement, they need guidance.
Amen. It's
this Alfred pushing Bruce to be like, hey, you've dealt with your trauma, now help this kid. Like, like now it's time to level up to the next thing. And you as a parent, me as a parent, like, the day your son was born, didn't you feel like kind of a leveling up? It was like, this is real now. I can't be the same lazy person that I was. And even if you weren't lazy, you feel like you were.
And there's a lot of things where it's like, I can't protect him forever. I can't make him not want to go down the crime fighting path. And Alfred saw that and he goes, like, I think it's a deeply insightful line. They need little encouragement because men with a mind for revenge have plenty of courage.
Yes.
There's nothing going to stop them. They're either going to die or the other person's going to die, but they need guidance.
Yeah. Well, and it's Bruce's, it's Bruce's mentorship and aspirational life and stuff is when he says your parents weren't killed, and he's like, well, actually they were.
Yes, they were.
Yes, they were. But it ends up being where Robin doesn't make the kill, or he could have even done the Batman Begins.
Yeah.
I don't have to, I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. Like,
and let him slip off the rock, that route.
But no, you said he did what Batman from the animated series does. He fought his villain. He beat him, and now he saves him.
Yeah.
And that's
Well, it's great the way they do it because
not the Jesus juke it, but I mean,
yeah,
that's what happened. Like, genuinely, that's what Christ did in a way. Is like he beat his enemy, death, and then turned around and saved all of us from it. Yeah, it's like we were.
Well, that's like what's going on at Pentecost.
Peter
is preaching to people who were probably in the crowd chanting for Jesus' death, saying, "Look, he's not trying to take you down. It's not revenge. This is mercy. There's a whole new leaf." And I love that the way the movie tells us, like, raises the stakes. Robin does what Batman asked him to do, but then Two-Face gets the upper hand, and you go, is Robin's decision not to kill Two-Face in revenge going to be vindicated? And it is. That's how you narratively support a value, like, we're not taking revenge. And it's great. And that's also a good picture of discipleship. I love Robin that much. But so on that revenge path, you got anything more to say, or are we going to drop some lightning here?
Nah, let's drop the lightning.
Yeah, let's do it. Now, the real game begins. I don't know. It's so silly. I can simultaneously dislike what Jim Carrey did and say it's a fun performance.
Well, it's the same thing Arnold Schwarzenegger and Batman and Robin. It's one of the greatest performances of all time. That is also simultaneously one of the worst.
I did Batman and Robin for years was my favorite movie. Honestly, it was my favorite movie. And my dad used to make fun of Arnold all the time. And I was like, that was his loving way of participating with me, but also pointing out that it's not a great movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'll say, it is the chilling sound of your doom, and then attack me when I was a kid. But so we hit our lightning round. This is where we do receive, reject, redeem. What are some things that that we can reject? Well, actually, you know what? I'll start. There's this line that's said with all this confidence, like it's a good thing. A man's got to go his own way. A friend taught me that. I was like, that's silly. If Robin had gone his own way, he would gone revenge. And there's like this whole debate, Robin's like, I can't promise you I won't kill Two-Face. And Batman's got to be okay with that. No, you don't. As a parent, you don't let your kids just like go your own way. It's actually one of our issues we had with Pa Kent in Superman. But you know what this made me think of is Book of Proverbs will say, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. And so, a man's got to go his own way. No, that's not wisdom. Reject that. That's a bad piece of advice. And the movie doesn't even follow it.
Yep. One of my rejects is because the movie itself, and honestly, a lot of people kind of almost implicitly take it on, is Two-Face's view of justice. Is almost kind of like this 50-50 chance. It's if you get justice, you're lucky, but most people aren't going to get justice. And are you just what you said, Tommy Lee Jones' the speech at the beginning? I don't have the words in front of me, but
let's see how much can I do it. Holy men are martyred, children get starved, politicians grow fat. Why? Luck. Blind, stupid, simple, doodah, clueless luck.
Good job, Miles. Wow.
Well, okay. So I've watched this movie enough times, and that first thing is great. You're waiting for the winged avenger to deliver you from evil, aren't you, my friend? But he ends up he says true justice all the time, all the way. Actually, I learned some stuff in this movie this time because I watched with subtitles, and a lot of his lines were hard to read. So there's like, tonight we're gonna interrupt this good, wholesome, all-American fun and celebrate, absolute chaos and true. I thought it was jester my whole life, but he says true justice. You have, and I love the way he swings it around, 2 minutes. But he also he says true justice all throughout this movie, and so I'm sure there was a version of this script that was more interesting with him. Yeah, but his version of justice is an entirely
I think so. But it's like it's the coin flip, 50-50. It's just pure chance.
Yeah,
and the biblical way is funny enough. If I had remembered it, the full quote, I probably would have picked in Psalms, where it's like, why did the wicked prosper? Why did the wicked this? Yeah. And then I entered in the house of the Lord, but I went with a different Psalm. Is one, justice is inevitable, and is divine. Is for the Lord loves justice. He will not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever, but the children of the wicked shall be cut off. And so it's not this, like, you don't escape divine justice. You may be able to temporarily escape earthly justice. You may be king, you may be a king or an autocrat or something like that, and no one can touch you. But there is one who can touch you, and he is going to touch you. So justice is not 50-50. If the holy man is martyred, hey, he goes and faces, his Lord and Savior. At that. What a glorious thing for that. Yeah. Well, a wicked man dies fat and happy. Well, he now stands before, his Lord also, but now in the seat of judgment versus the welcoming seat of a father.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Move on to another reject. Last week, we went kind of viral for suggesting that it's not good that Superman is fornicating with his girlfriend. But like, you look at this movie and Chase is just throwing herself at Batman, sleeping naked in her sheets, inviting him, my place, midnight, and it's just, again, all throughout Hollywood, their sexual ethic is terrible. It teaches terrible sexual ethic, even though he doesn't end up sleeping with her. Fortunately, she says, I'm in love with somebody else. I guess a girl has to grow up sometimes. Yes, we should all grow up sometimes. Yes. You need to marry Bruce Wayne and then consummate the marriage.
Yeah. I don't know, Miles. It just sounds a whole bunch of like incel nonsense to me.
Listen, you've been nursing a 30-year crush on Nicole Kidman. It's not her real hair, okay? Yes. It's not her real hair.
You married man with a child or such an incel.
No, but all the ladies and there's those like feminist tests, like there's two ladies that had conversations with each other. They were not really agents of their life. Although Nicole Kidman's character was smart, feisty. She punched a bad guy. She was okay, but they're really kind of, at best, two-dimensional women in this movie. But yeah, so there's plenty of things to reject in the movie. But what about some ideas we can receive or redeem? I just like, again, as a redeem picture, Robin is a good model of discipleship. Mm-hmm. Even this movie, it's not totally fleshed out, but it's a really neat thing where he and Bruce have experienced the same thing in the world. And Bruce comes along and shows him the mission and how to do it, but they have their own style and differences. And I think it's a fun picture of what it's like as fellow Christians to help one another grow, and how Robin is growing to become in the image of a crime fighter following Batman. So that's a pretty fun thing. And then Batman's life also kind of parallels the Christian life in a fun way. We can redeem this. I've always seen Alfred as kind of like a Holy Spirit figure in Batman's life. So he's on this mission to fulfill a vow that he made to his parents, and they left him a helper that helps him in all these different ways. And in particular, like, that one line is so great. Like, Alfred is going kind of against Bruce's wishes, and you're encouraging him. And he goes, young men need guidance. Alfred wasn't like preaching to him, but he steered them all in the right way. Alfred was sewing together the ugliest Robin suit in the history of cinema. But still, he was doing that in the background, knowing that Batman would need him. So yeah, Alfred as a helper is kind of fun.
Yeah. A redeem for me is one thing that a lot of people, I'll say, miss this about just general stuff in life, but Nigma in this movie, Ed, he's clearly brilliant, but he doesn't have the humility. And a lot of times when people watch movies like this, they end up confusing both. They're like, oh no, it was the brainiac. Yeah, it was, actually, I'm quoting the Bible. All of your learning has driven you mad, Paul. Now it's like Paul's response is classic with that, but it's not relevant to this. But is that mindset of like, oh, it was his brilliance is what made him go insane? No, it was his lack of humility in this. It was Ed's lack of humility, and you see it in his first interaction with Bruce. Like, this is his idol. Like, he is all about Bruce Wayne. He's like, oh my gosh, he's here. But after he briefly explains poorly what it is that he's trying to do, Bruce is like, yeah, absolutely. Have your secretary, reach out to my secretary and we'll set something up. And he's like, no. Like, I need an answer now.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where he was seeing himself as, although he was idolizing Bruce, and he continues to idolize him.
Yeah, he does. He copies him.
During the party, he wears the exact same glasses.
And the
And
suit.
when Bruce takes his glasses off, he takes his glasses off. Like,
Mhm.
he's still living in his shadow. He idolizes him, but he started to view himself as the same level. And Bruce was willing to work with Ed, but as soon as Ed was like, no, I need an answer now, Bruce was like, limited information I have doesn't sound good. I'm not going to be forced into anything.
Yeah.
And the redeem of this is if Ed had just been humble, he would have gotten all the funding he needed, along with all the fame and all the riches. Probably would have been even a better technology because Bruce would have made sure it wasn't stealing people's brains and memory. But it would just been a tweak on the technology. It would have had all the same results. But because he was arrogant, he ended up getting rejected. And then that led down the rest of his life. And I have two verses, one from Proverbs and one from our Lord, is in Proverbs 16:5 is, everyone who is arrogant in heart is an abomination to the Lord. Be assured he will not go unpunished. What happened to Ed? Exactly what Proverbs said was going to happen to someone who has an arrogant heart. And then our Lord, when he's talking about this, when you were invited, go and sit at the lowest place, so that when your host comes to you, says, friend, move up here, then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. And it's like those two, one's a proverb, one's a parable, not meant to be literal, but incredible amount of advice.
So
don't try to live by those, and your life will be astronomically better. Like, literally, like, try to live by those two principles, and your life tomorrow will improve. It is incredible.
Frankly, spending a little more time thinking about other people. Don't walk up to somebody and say, that's not going to be good for me.
Yeah.
I need an answer now. I think I deserve it. It's great. That's a wonderfully acted scene by Jim Carrey. Like, kind of subtle, but his arrogance.
Carrey occasionally shows that he actually knows how to act.
Oh yeah, he's really just gobs of talent. And they did get that character right in terms of they found a natural way to create a Riddler who was desperate to prove that he's better than Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. They wrote an interesting path for that, which is a common thing to the Riddler. But this actually reminds me of, could have been a main point, but I think one thing to redeem is when you watch movies, you can start to see, like, let's say a figure is a Christ figure or a God figure. If you see Batman as something akin to God in the eyes of people around him, you'll see the way that there's three people who react to him in terms of their expectations of God or Batman to solve the problem of evil in their life. So you have three characters reacting to Batman. You have Two-Face, Riddler, and Robin. All of them have a way in which they can blame Batman for failing them, or Bruce Wayne in the Riddler's case. So Two-Face is like a person who has lost his faith in God and becomes like an anti-theist. Like, I'm now embracing scientism. There is no justice. There is no objective morality. There's only chance. It's when he's flipping the coin, there's another line I never understood until watching the subtitles this time. He goes, it's like a touch of God. Wait. I never knew what he was saying, but he's saying it's like a touch of God. The coin is now his God, and he has to get rid of Batman, who represents the old form of justice, which is intentional, ethical, and unstoppable in Batman. Why can't you just die? It's like an atheist trying to destroy the idea of God. maybe kind of a Richard Dawkins type acolyte.
They keep killing God. They keep putting God in the dock, and keeps getting reversed. He keeps coming back.
Why can't you just die? And then Riddler is like an ex-Christian, or like a Judas, or like the crowds that turn on Jesus. So he's idolizing Bruce Wayne. You were supposed to understand. I'll make you understand. And you can the Bible doesn't tell us exactly why Judas betrayed Jesus. It said he was greedy, would steal from the group. But why did crowds who praised Jesus kill him? And I think largely it's like all these characters, they had expectations of what the Messiah would be, of what Jesus would do with his power. And he didn't fill them, and he disappointed them. You know, he wanted to love the Romans into the kingdom. They didn't want that. They wanted to get rid of the fascist or to make Israel great again, you know?
Yeah.
And he was different. He was here to save everybody, including his enemies. And so some way or another, people often, you know, they get disappointed with Jesus. They're like the Riddler. I'll make you understand. Why can't I kill you? And then Robin, even in the middle of this movie, he says, you know, it should have been you. If you had told Two-Face at the circus who you were, my parents would still be alive. And he's kind of right, you know, but he has this moment. He goes to Batman, and Batman says, you know, if Bruce Wayne could have given his life for your family, he would have. And it's like, Batman shows that he has the heart of kind of like Christ for Dick Grayson. I would have given my life for you. Well, we know a God who does love you in spite of all the evil that he lets us experience. He did give his life for us. And so that's enough for Robin to say, okay, I'll follow you. I'll become part of your family. And so you see the three reactions to Batman from people who relate to him kind of the way people relate to God. And that's fun. I squeezed in another main point at the end here.
Yeah.
But it's just really cool to see if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. And then Batman, of course, isn't God. He's got all kinds of problems. But that's a fun little piece. And this is why the movie is definitely not diluted. There's plenty here.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Underneath the mess that is Carrey's performance and the way in which this movie led into Batman and Robin and destroyed Batman for nearly a decade.
Yeah.
But
what could have been? What could have been? Yeah.
Release the Schumacher cut. I don't think it's going to save. I don't think it's going to save us. But man, with that, I love this movie. Thanks for going down memory lane again with me this summer, Eric.
Yep.
And thank you for joining us. Any of you who have listened this far, maybe take another crack at Batman Forever and see ways in which we can get past our trauma and learn to be good men and use the gifts that he has given us to redeem whatever city you're in and whatever power that you have. You know, that'll preach. I love this stuff. I love you guys. I love you guys. So keep engaging media and movies from a godly worldview. And remember, you are not a mindless consumer.